That's the
Yeah,
funniest part of all of this. Brian Kelly left Notre Dame to go to LSU because he didn't think that he would have enough talent to win at Notre Dame, only to lose the number one recruit to a Midwest team in Michigan, right? Only to lose the number one recruit in the country to a Midwest team while he is barely over 500 watching Marcus Freeman in the national championship game. Karma, you beautiful B word. You use a bad one. Use a bad one. Oh my God. You come at just the right times. You and your fake accent. I hope he watches it and sheds a tear. I hope it runs down his face. Lord have mercy.
House Divided back at it again with another preview / recap.
Steve Sarkisian. There should be an APB out for him in Austin right now, for sure. They should have left that man on the tarmac. Put the fries in the bag, brother. I don't understand. I don't get it, but I guess we can talk about the whole game. Let's start with y'all's game. Let's just start there. Let's just start with this game against Texas.
Oh, you don't
Okay.
want to recap the entire thing. We just want to recap
No.
this
We
round.
can get there. We can definitely
Okay.
get there. I just wanted to talk about it before it like eats away at me.
Gotcha. So,
First and goal from the 1 yard line. And you end up with not only 2 negative plays, but a sack fumble return for a TD from a defensive lineman.
for 85 yards.
If I would have lined you up in like Madden or college football and gave you, it wasn't even just 1st and 10 because they already had 1st and goal from inside the 5, and then they got the pass interference, right? So they were 1st and goal from the 1.
Yes.
1st and goal from the 1. You got 1st down, 2nd down, 3rd down. If you really need it, you got 4th down. You have 4 downs to get a yard.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the 1st down, we do what we're supposed to. Boom, right up the middle. Okay, stout. That's great. You got to do that 3 more times. Let's run it back. On 2nd and 1, 2nd and inches, maybe. A toss sweep to the short side of the field. Hey, listen, we were having a conversation on Johnny's channel. Shout out to Kinetic and TJ
Garrison.
Ronan and Garrison. Yeah, everybody we were on with that day. There was a conversation where we split off and we said, well, what about Sark and Ryan Day? They're pretty similar. Cut that shit out. Cut it out. Okay? Because I have seen a lot of stuff, right? I've seen a lot of slip ups, but not one that is that. Well, no, not 1 yard, not 1 yard on the goal line. It hasn't been.
I've seen one extremely close, and it wasn't Ryan Day.
It
was
well,
James
I'm
Franklin.
saying Ryan Day's had his woes, but
sure,
it ain't. It's not. It wasn't that. It wasn't like, okay, lean over the goal line with your 6'3", 200-pound quarterback, and you at very least go to overtime. At very least, you're in overtime, and y'all keep playing, right? Like you just did against Arizona State. But no, I'm the smartest guy in the room. My offense is jazzy. Motion shifts. Eye candy. Yeah, I'm going to do a toss sweep to the short side of the field. They'll never see it coming. They'll never see it coming, baby.
Until they did.
My goodness. 4th and goal from the 7th now. Still can't block Jack Sawyer. Right around the edge, sack fumble, and then you let the man pick it up and go 85 yards at 275. Y'all deserve the embarrassment. I hope they put y'all on Greyhounds back to Austin. I hope that the PJ left without y'all and y'all had to hitchhike back home.
Now I know there were some people ahead of behind Jack Sawyer, kind of blocking Sonny Styles. Oh. There is somebody on that Texas Longhorn team that is faster.
Fam, like you got to be kidding me. There's 4 receivers out on the pattern, right? I guess I'll leave Gunnar Helm out of that. Maybe he's not fast. I think he's got to be faster than Jack Sawyer, but maybe you take him. So there's 3 other wide receivers. There's a running back, Quentin Ewers, I don't know what the hell happened to Quentin Ewers. He just laid on the ground and rolled around, I guess. There's nobody's gonna go catch him. Yeah, that I couldn't believe I was watching what I was watching, because first half, right? You guys get out to the type of start that you would want to, at least in the first quarter. Offense looks good. Looks like they can't stop you. You're running the ball, passing the ball. Everything looks good. But then I start looking up, beginning of the second quarter, midway through the second quarter, about 5 or 6 minutes left in the second quarter. The score is still 7-0. Still 7-0. So the fact that Texas took your guys' best punch there early and only gave up a touchdown was miraculous. Like that was the formula right there. Right? They gave up some plays underneath. They gave up some yardage underneath, but they didn't give up the big home run shots. They kept the two safeties high. They weren't stopping the run.
Bracketing Jeremiah Smith.
They weren't stopping the run earlier, but once they figured that out with keeping the safeties up, they started, they start flipping their what they were showing to Will Howard late in the game. They waited. They were very patient. This was such a wasted defensive effort. Any game you hold Jeremiah Smith to single-digit passing yards and you don't win it, your offensive staff should be admonished. They should be getting taxed right now. Like, I mean, y'all pay some of that salary back to the players, because Jesus Christ, how do you take one of the best players in America and pretty much blank him out? And then even more than that, in the second half, they sure up on the run. They made Ohio State one-dimensional. You go out and get that score, there is no guarantee that Ohio State does anything with that ball if they get it back. Because Will Howard,
pressure on us.
As much as we were in the second half, I think Quentin Ewers was better than Will Howard.
I guess argument for sure.
They just didn't take advantage. It was all for you right there. They were getting pressure. They were starting to get pressure on Will Howard. They were running the ball well, right? They were
Ohio State was making mistakes.
Ohio State was making mistakes, penalties, right? Getting away with a lot of handsiness on both sides, but there was a lot. I think they just weren't calling them at the right times. There was a lot of flags thrown. They just weren't getting the most egregious of them.
Sure.
I know your boy Fryer was out there. He
damn near tackled the man when Quinshawn ran by him. I was like, Jesus Christ.
He was out there fighting for his life all night. Oh my God. But it was all right there. I can't blame it on that. I cannot use that as an excuse for Texas. It was there. It was right there. Take the ball and fall down for a yard, Quentin Ewers. Sorry, that sounds stupid. Kill. Sneak. Go. I don't give a shit. I don't care. Go argue with him. First of all, he's not going to argue with you anyways. He's the most, that shit looks, that calm demeanor shit where like nothing, he's unflappable, nothing's affecting him.
Right.
It looks beautiful when you're up. But that doughy-eyed, spacey fucking look looks terrible when you just lost 3 yards on second and goal from the 1. Looks awful. Looks terrible. Right? So he ain't gonna argue with you. He ain't gonna cuss you out. He probably ain't gonna say shit to you. Probably gonna give you a attaboy. Kill that play. As soon as I would have heard it. What? Toss sweep out of the pistol on second and goal? Kill. Understand. Hey. On go. Silent count. Go. I'm not playing
push
with
at
you.
the least.
That is Pete Carroll. I need Russell Wilson to throw a quick slant to win the Super Bowl, because
everybody's expecting Marshawn Lynch to run the ball.
I wanted to win it my way, or I wanted to win it on Russell's arm, or Marshawn Lynch parked in my parking spot at the facility that week. I don't know what the hell went on, but that is what is on my mind right now. So you got up. You scored your first 2 offensive touchdowns, or the last 2 offensive touchdowns, throwing to Jaden Blue. Getting it to Jaden Blue. Oh, well, maybe no, they're keying on the running backs. That's what it is. Yeah, we'll do something different. Yeah, toss sweep. Oh my God. What a wasted defensive effort. I feel bad for them kids, man, because early on it looked like it was going to be a rout. They bowed up. They got stout. They made all of the proper adjustments. They played that game perfectly.
I
They
would
played
agree.
that game perfectly. Like I don't even with Quentin Ewers, I know some have gotten on her saying Sharp. I side note, I really don't appreciate former athletes that dink and dunk into every sport, but speak as experts. Far be it on me, Shannon Sharp is far more of a football expert than I will ever be. But I do think it is really it is kind of played out to be hearing these pundits that cover nationally from a national standpoint, right? Shannon Sharp is not watching college football. He did not watch Quentin Ewers play in every game. He probably watched this game and the last game versus Arizona
Mhm.
State. Who are you? Who are you to make a judgment on this man's entire career at Texas, which is pretty damn good. His season at Texas this season was pretty damn good. His
Yeah.
game against Ohio State, like the late pick, he was trying to make a play. They're
Mhm.
down multiple scores. I didn't get that. The offensive line was leaving him out to dry all
Very
goddamn
much.
night.
Very much so. Yeah.
That sack fumble, there was no resistance on Fryer at all, or excuse me, on Sawyer at all. None.
Mhm.
He came right as the snap, right as the ball came. So like
Yeah.
there's absolutely on 4th and goal, and I got to score a touchdown to keep us in the game. So I'm sorry, Shannon Sharp, but like you don't watch enough college football for me to respect that opinion. You do not watch enough college football for me to respect that opinion. Again, he's the expert. He know more football. He got more football in his pinky than I got in my whole body. But that doesn't mean that I can't point out that somebody is not.
What about Mr. Joy Taylor? Emmanuel Acho talking about Will Howard's the worst quarterback in the playoffs right now. What?
Yeah, I thought that was crazy
Riley?
while
Riley
Riley
Leonard?
Leonard, yeah, while Riley Leonard was still around. I thought that was a little nuts.
Drew Aller?
Uh,
What are we talking about?
yeah,
I'll
I
give you
mean,
Quinn Ewers, but what are we talking about?
yeah. I mean, I didn't love that comment either, especially because of how he was playing, like how he was currently playing. It was just it felt like a hot take.
Did
Regardless,
you
even
not
if
just
you
see the
felt like
last
it
two
was
games?
true, it's a bad time to say it because he was he was lighting it up. So
Yeah.
uh,
Stupid.
that was weird. But yeah, just again, and Acho, I feel like is a guy who does watch a lot of college football because that's more his lane than
He
more
must have
so
only
than
been
the
watching
NFL, I
Texas.
guess. But whatever. Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, no. Shout out to Texas. They definitely gave us a game. Like you
Mhm.
said, they did everything right. Aside from a couple of maybe bonehead coaching decisions,
Oh
I think
my
they really
god,
played their
man.
heart out, and I can't
And then
fault
yeah,
anybody.
the prevent defense at the end of the half. You've been playing one defense all game long. They got 7 points. You just scored. They gonna get the ball back at half. Why are we going into this send my safeties back 40 yards and hope he doesn't zigzag his way to the touchdown? Because you giving him a running start? You're giving him momentum. There's nobody within 20 yards of him. He gets a 15 to 20 yard head start before he's even impeded at all.
Especially somebody with home run ability like Travion
God
Henderson.
damn it, yo! Like that was a
Crazy.
frustrating one to watch. That was a
Crazy.
frustrating
Yeah,
one to
no,
watch.
again, definitely some coaching mistakes had. But then again, like I said, some uncharacteristic penalties on our side. Travion hitting somebody in the fucking helmet. Like, what are we doing?
But they didn't make you pay for it, right? Like you were getting those stops, and then the offense would stall, and I understand why they couldn't protect, but what was the plan for that, Sark? It just felt like he didn't realize what he needed to adjust on, which felt obvious walking into the game. He didn't feel like he realized that until half, and then he realized it, and then he had a winning game plan, and he just screwed it at the end. He literally, I can't say that the second half of that game wasn't called correctly. It was offensively or defensively. It was, but when we have the opportunity and we're on the doorstep, football is football. I don't really care about how tricky you think you are, how creative you are, analytics, what have you. Ohio State's the number one, blah, 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 blah. How many goal line stops they've had? It's 1 yard. It's 1 yard. It's my guys versus your guys for a yard. 1 yard. And if we can't get that, we don't deserve to be here. If I can't go to the call timeout, get them before they go out there, look my front five in the face and say, I need you to move their bodies for a yard. If you get a ball, if you get me a yard here, I take you boys to the national championship. If you can't do that, that's an issue. That's a problem. Okay. If we need to call pistol toss sweep left on 2nd down and goal from the 1, we got an issue. We have a problem.
Yeah, that's facts. Especially this offensive line that's been touted all season.
Oh my God. I can't. I can't do it. I don't understand. I don't get it. It literally brought them to the play, bro. It brought them to the play. You're running it into the corner. He doesn't have the space. You're expecting him to beat. He's got a corner that's out leverage him already out there. They got a safety plus a hang player plus a hang linebacker over on that side. Like, where's he gonna go? Then Caleb Downs shoots it like he usually does, comes straight through, blows it up in the backfield. He gets stiff arm, but slows the guy down enough. We need to start talking about that play. We need to move on.
Especially Caleb Downs, the sure tackler that Caleb Downs is. Even when, like you said, he got a hand in his face, he's still going to make that tackle somehow. Shoestring, something. Let's talk about every Michigan fan's nightmare: a national championship between Ohio State and Notre Dame.
Yeah, so I mean, I really needed Texas to win that game. I really needed Texas to win that game. No, I really needed Texas to win that game because now I am stuck in between. Well, I guess if they win, you can just say that you beat the national champs. But I guess Oregon could say that, but then they got their ass whooped, so they can't say shit. They can't say nothing.
Destroyed when it mattered the most.
Yeah. So yeah, they're not gonna say much anyways. I guess we could say that pretty firmly, but you know, I also don't want to see you hang a 9th national championship. So I don't know, man. But then it's like, do you want to see Notre Dame win a national championship? Notre Dame ain't won anything of note since the 80s, and that has been something that I've loved to be able to lord over them. And would like to see it continue. You know, it's not a bad thing. I'd love to see them get their hopes up from riding the not going to join a conference just so we can backdoor our way.
We need them to join a conference.
Only to have their dreams dashed on the national stage, especially because of the track that they've had too, man. It's been very fortunate. We got Indiana, which was, I think they were a very competitive team, but they were a team whose deficiencies didn't show up until late in the season. And by that time, it was too late to fix them, and they were very obvious for a team like Notre Dame to exploit. Then they get Georgia without their starting quarterback most of the way, right? Carson Beck goes out.
Carson Beck to Miami is nasty, by the way.
They just ain't never. They're never going to develop a. They're never going to develop a quarterback, huh? They're just never. It's never going to be a thing. They're never going to recruit a quarterback out of high school and then practice with him and make him learn the system.
No,
and then
Gunnar Stockton now.
That's never going to be a thing.
They got Gunnar Stockton to do it now. That's going to be their quarterback of the future.
Gunnar Stockton.
Oh, Miami. Yeah, no, Miami is.
Miami. They're never going to.
No.
They're never. And I, for the life of me, can't understand why guys keep going there. But whatever. Okay, have fun.
This is Miami. Well, actually, Carson Beck, that's his girlfriend goes there. So,
anyways,
well, whatever that's worth.
Yeah, they got enough money to fly anywhere they want to go.
Facts.
But he'll be Marcus Freeman will be the first black coach to win a national championship. Would love that to have been Sharon Moore. Also didn't like his answer on that either. Like,
it kind of avoided the whole thing entirely. Like,
you know that people are going to, you know that's going to be a thing. You've seen it, and I don't know if it's a good thing that they put you on the spot. But I for damn sure ain't I don't want to be one of the black players in your locker room hearing the lady asking you about what does it mean to you to be the first black coach to play in the national championship or coach the national championship, and you like, well, you know, all lives matter. I'm a coach. Like, man, come on, bro.
That's
Like,
crazy.
all right, sure, it's an uncomfortable question, but you are black, right? Like, you're okay with being labeled a black man, right? Like that's I understand he's black and Japanese, he's biracial, but like
Mhm.
you're not at all uncomfortable with the designation of being a black man. Surely not that you're coaching a team full of black men. Anyways, anywho, that's not it's not football. I didn't love the answer, but yeah, I'm very conflicted. I don't know who I want to win this game. I obviously hate Ohio State more than I hate Notre Dame, but I don't ever want anything nice to happen to Notre Dame either. So this is a real conundrum. Maybe the game can get indefinitely postponed, and we don't have a national champion in 2025.
Nope.
I think we can find a way to make that happen.
I don't think
It's
so.
gonna take some real logistics. So House Divided fans, if you want to squad up with me to make sure neither one of these teams win another national title this year, at least. Let's put together that conspiracy. Let's put together that plan. Let's make it happen.
So, anyways, realistically, I think Notre Dame has been playing pretty well given the circumstances that they've, like you said, seen pretty simple competition for the most part. But they've shown up, shown out. Marcus Freeman has looked like a better coach than he has in years prior, or even earlier this year.
He
Even
tried his
earlier
best
this
to
year.
move that game against who they just play against Penn State. Oh man, they was having it. Penn State
Well,
and,
the
and
Penn
Notre
State
Dame
Notre Dame game
was having
that
a
was
no.
a
You take it. No, you take the game. No,
that
no,
was a
you take
trash
the game.
off. That was a
You take the game. No, you take the game.
These teams are having a mid off, is what's happening right now.
They
That
seen
did
the
happen. That's fair.
prospect of playing Ohio State, and it was like, you know what? We'll do it next year. Here, you got it. No, and then James Franklin was like, hell no, I will do it. You do it this year. You go. We'll do it next year. They was trying to hand that game back and forth the whole fourth quarter.
But unfortunately, nobody can James Franklin better than James Franklin. So Notre Dame won. I'm just
Yeah.
happy that Penn State didn't win for the simple fact that we are not going to see the funniest thing in the world happen here. Because if Penn State would have found some way to make it to the national championship and then get up on Ohio State, no, I couldn't have that. That'd be worse than losing to Michigan 4 times.
I was actually surprised
That
by
was
Notre
just
Dame and how they were able to bow up versus the run in their game in the second half of that game, because it was another case of like, okay, well, they're getting it however they want, right? Like they're throwing deep, they're running the ball with Katron Allen, with Nick Singleton. They're getting like 6-7 yards a pop. This is going to be over very quickly. And Notre Dame bowed their necks. They start stopping up the run, playing a little bit more stout against that. They started getting pressure on Drew Aller. I liked what I seen in the second half from Notre Dame, because that is something that you have to be able to do if you have any shot versus Ohio State, right? You got to take something away, and you have to be able to play sound defense. You have to be able to keep a roof on your defense versus Jeremiah Smith. If that's not part of the equation, then it's literally going to be 21-0 before you look up. So, yeah, again, Texas had the formula. It's out there now. Any defensive coordinator, I'm looking at you. Who was it? Al Golden at Notre Dame.
so, yeah.
If you are half the defensive coordinator, I think you are, you will not stray from it. It'll be very easy to figure out how you're going to play this game. Anything short of that is going to be absolute disaster for them, because the one thing from Notre Dame is that they are not going to be very explosive on the outside, right? And so if they're going to play their type of offensive game, they're going to need a very sound defensive effort on the other side, similar to what Michigan did, similar to what Texas was just able to do.
I guess my only problem is, yes, Michigan and even Texas gave Notre Dame the blueprint, but is Notre Dame's defense good enough to execute on the same level that either one of those teams
Up
did?
front, I think they competed very well versus Penn State. I think that'll be the closest comparison that they'll have to your offensive line and the
A team
running
without
backs,
Benjamin Morrison.
which
at
is
that.
actually, I think it is a good comparison. I think it's a good comparison up front, at least personnel wise, with offensive line and running back. The problem is I don't know if Notre Dame has the back end, as you just said, with Benjamin Morrison being out. I don't know if they have what Texas had with Makuba and them boys on the back end to play as good as Texas or Michigan did. Now they better try. That doesn't mean you don't deploy the
Sure.
plan. Like you still go with it and hope for the best. I just don't. That's going to be a tell. I think they'll be much more apt to test Notre Dame even when they bracket Jeremiah Smith, as opposed to what they were willing to do versus Texas.
See, I think Texas was good enough to, even when we tried to test it and go to Jeremiah Smith, they made us pay for it. I don't think Notre Dame is that team. And even if they are, and they do completely take Jeremiah Smith out of the game, similar to the way both teams did, I think Buka and Carnell Tate and G. Scott to a lesser degree, I think they eat.
Yeah, I mean they were doing that to a certain degree in the first half, right? Like Emeka Egbuka was getting loose pretty well. G. Scott had some passes in there. Carnell Tate was really stepping up. The issue is that when you shorten the field for them now, and Jeremiah Smith is no longer an option, then the numbers start to even out a little bit better,
Yeah.
right? It's a lot of field to cover. Chip. Yeah, Chip. I was going to say Chip Lindsey, but Chip Kelly is a very creative play caller, so you never really know where you're going to get it from. In the middle of the field, in between the 40s, that's very hard, very difficult to defend. When the field strikes down, your options get a lot shorter as an offensive play caller. You get a lot more predictable. We can get you off the field, make you get turnovers. Now you're forcing Ohio State to play a much more methodical game, right? They have to play strategy a lot more than it is big bang, big plays, over the top, long runs. When they're not playing that way, you open up the opportunity for them to do what they did against Texas some of the time. They have penalties, they have false starts, they have holding penalties. You know what the holes are for Ohio State, or at least what they were entering this playoffs. They have a ragtag group, the offensive line that they're putting together. Those guys have played good, but still, if you're forcing them to play 9, 10, 12, 13 play drives, that is a lot of opportunities for guys who are getting their experience now to have mistakes. And so that's the plan, right? Stretch that plan out, or stretch that path out for, I should say, Ohio State as far as you possibly can, and take opportunities when they present themselves when you get them going backwards.
I think I got two responses to that. So first of all, I got one response and one thing I want to say. So first of all, I hear you, and I think if they execute on all points in that aspect, they could potentially win this game, or they at least have a path to win this game.
Because also
But
we haven't even talked about the running game, right? With Jeremiah Love and
sure,
I forgot 24's name, but they've got a very strong running game on top of what Riley Leonard brings as a runner, which
was
has
there
been
more of
an
a
issue
quarterback?
for Ohio State a little bit with running
A little bit.
quarterbacks this year. So
Yeah, I just don't know if Marcus Freeman is experienced enough to get them to execute on all points. And I don't know if Notre Dame is experienced enough to execute on all points all at once, to be able to focus on everything all at once.
well, I
I,
mean that they will have to play somewhat of a perfect game, right? Texas did is about as good of a defensive effort as you can give in one of these type of matchups, and it still wasn't enough because it wasn't perfect.
yeah,
Right? Like you are going to need a pretty much perfect game to play against this offense to do what you need to do. I think them being able to run the ball consistently is going to be a big part of it. And again, it pops up late in games, late in second halves. You are able to run the ball a little bit better against Ohio State. It's just, are you going to be in position to take advantage of it? Are you going to finish off those drives with touchdowns? That would be the biggest part.
and to that point, also, well, I guess to the point of that we were making before, I don't know that Notre Dame has played good enough teams to at least get the practice needed in order to get to this point and remain victorious.
Well, I mean, they're here.
Whereas,
So, I mean,
well,
they're here.
but their path has been Indiana, a Carson Beckless, Georgia, and then Penn
Mhm.
State, where ours is at least Oregon and Texas. So
Tennessee. Yeah.
not to say that we're going to
Ohio
crush
State
the
has definitely had the
SEC.
harder run. You can't take that away from them. They definitely had the harder run. I will say this, that if there's one thing that we can glean out of this, that everybody in our area can glean from this, is that we can finally, finally do away with this. Oh man, real football's played in the SEC. All the players is in the South. First of all, we're 5-1 versus the SEC in the postseason, right? The two halves of the national championship are both Midwestern teams. And one of them is a Midwestern team that doesn't have a lot of 5 stars, doesn't have a whole lot of blue chip talent in comparison to some of the other Southern schools or even some of the Midwestern schools that they compete with, right? They beat a team that's got more blue chippers than them in Penn State. So, oh man, you gotta have this to win a championship. You gotta have that. That's not what college football is anymore, right? There's been a lot of things that have been flipped on their heads, and the one thing that I am glad is gone is, or two things, I guess. Number one is that the SEC is just this lord over football, and they dictate the whole thing. They're the standard. Hogwash, because now that everybody is able to get paid, now
Believe
that I can get I can get $2 million, or I can get 500K in South Bend, Indiana, the way that only I could get it in Louisiana or in Alabama before in a brown paper bag. But now I can get it legally in a state that's closer to where I come from or where I would like to be, or maybe the culture fits a little bit better. Now that talent is spreading out. Okay,
facts.
now all of a sudden, all those Southern teams that had all that talent, and they still have a lot of talent, all that speed, and they still have a lot of speed, but somehow they're getting ran off the field. Just confused.
Yeah.
That, and then also now that, like, you're seeing, this is the second year in a row. The second thing I'm glad we're done with is oh man, you gotta have this, you gotta have that, you gotta have a 5-star quarterback. You're not gonna win any championships without a stud at quarterback. I love the way Will Howard has played in this postseason, right? Um, I think it's clear that, like, he's a serviceable quarterback, but a stud is probably not what you would label him. Okay. Same thing with Riley Leonard. He's a gamer, right? He's athletic, he's a runner. A stud, right? Probably not. Probably not. Because when I look at the NFL draft boards, I see Shadur Sanders, I see Cam Ward. Okay, yeah, those guys are pretty high up. And then when I look at who's competing to win a championship, and it's Riley Leonard, and it's
Will
it's
Howard,
Will Howard and Drew
Kyler,
Aller, and it's like, well, hold on. And then last year, right? You got who was the big quarterback names last year? You had Jaden Daniels, you had Drake May, you had Bo Nix. And then in the playoff, you got JJ McCarthy,
Michael
you got
Penix.
Jalen Milroe, you got Michael Penix. I'm just like, oh. Hold on now. Like, the guys that y'all telling me are the best in the country aren't winning like they're the best in the country. I thought we needed the best of the best to go win a championship. I thought you needed, like, prime time. Now, I'm not saying that it's not an important position. I'm just saying people have kind of made their reputations, their platforms off of this idea that the SEC is dominant because of just the fertile recruiting grounds, and the area talent is just that much better than it is anywhere else in the country, right? And the thing that they weren't telling you about that is because the reason that they're able to get that talent is because they pay them, and they've been paying them before the days of NIL. And now that, again, northern teams on the East Coast, teams on the West Coast can all pay the same way that you've been paying. Well, now you see them traveling. Now you see these teams are a lot more competitive and balanced. So, number one, it is no longer going to be the way of the most expensive teams are the best teams. And number two, the age of winning championships the right way of, running the football, playing hard-nosed defense, it may not be such a begotten thing. It may not be such a forgotten thing, because in this era of offensive focused game and paying all these offensive guys and not even just offensive guys, paying college players and the exorbitant contracts that we're getting, you don't see a lot of teams having the principles of the game at the forefront, right? They lead with their rosters. They lead with their personnel. They're not leading with an identity offensively or defensively.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. I think in the past at least couple of seasons we've seen teams double down into the teams that they actually are. Now, granted, Ohio State paid a good amount for the team that they have, but it was more about leaning into the team that they really are and leaning into the personnel that makes them that. And I think it's the same thing for Michigan last year.
And they're not cheating the game to get it, right? Like they paid a few key players to get where they're at, but they're doing it the way that they're supposed to be. They run the ball, they get the ball to their playmakers, they play tough defense, they stop the run. Those are the things that you need to win a championship. It's not, man, you got to have all 5-star stud receivers on the outside. You got to have a gunner at quarterback. You got to have 6-8 tackles. You got people get enamored in the stuff that the recruiting services promote, and they think that's football, and that's closer to a pageant than it is to what actually wins you games. And you're seeing that prove out in this playoffs. The teams that were winning the line of scrimmage the entire time are the teams that ended up in the championship. The teams that most consistently controlled the line of scrimmage are the teams that advanced. And that's just football. That is what it is. It doesn't matter how many teams you add to the field. I guess we can kind of close out on this. It doesn't matter if it's 4, if it's 8, what it actually should have been. It doesn't matter if it's 12. It doesn't matter if it's the proposed 14 that would, I think, do a pretty big doozy to college football if they went to that.
And
But
conference championships.
yeah, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, there are probably only realistically, maybe 4, maybe 5 teams every year that are capable of winning a championship. Adding these extra teams to the field just makes sure that you can have a good show of it.
And more
Right? That
football
you can
games
have a
before
good
you get to the real one.
show of it. Yeah. Now, you could argue that a team like Ohio State, if you actually play it out like that, wouldn't have had an opportunity. I would say back to you that if you're going to play you're going to play a 12-game regular season, then those games should matter. If the only thing that matters is the playoffs, then we could be done with football in October. You know what I'm saying? We can get that thing popping off week 1 if that's the only thing that you care about, and if that's not going to be the determining factor of how we seed either. So don't take me through 14 weeks of a treacherous regular season, for which these guys are getting paid for, by the way, and then tell me that the results of that don't matter. You lose 2 in the regular season, you deserve to lose an opportunity, no matter how talented you are. And in most other situations, there would be a lot of teams that fell into that bucket this year. Georgia, Texas, right? Like there are a lot of teams that would have fell into that hole. That doesn't make it illegitimate. That doesn't mean that whoever wins a championship out of that was illegitimate, because we had talented teams that if you just want to put them in the playoffs, maybe they would have won. Yeah, if you put 30 teams in the field, maybe somebody would have won a game. That doesn't mean that you're not still going to end up with one of the 2 best teams in the country winning the championship, and that the extra added to the field affected that result. Because it's not. Right? We saw a lot of games in the back that we felt like it might have mattered in the beginning. Penn State versus SMU felt like maybe that would happen. No, didn't mean shit. Didn't mean anything. Even Texas, Arizona State, from where we're at now, as much as I'm saying that they probably should have beat Ohio State, ultimately, what do they go back to Austin with? What do they say that they accomplished? You didn't win the Big 12 this year.
SEC.
You want to, excuse me. Yeah. Did they win? No, they didn't win the SEC this year. You lost in the, what was that? The Cotton Bowl?
Mm-hmm.
No, the Cotton Bowl. Yeah. You lost in the Cotton Bowl. So I guess you can say you won a Fiesta Bowl, or not Fiesta Bowl. Damn. What bowl did they play in? Sugar, maybe.
Sugar Bowl.
The Sugar Bowl, okay. Versus Arizona State. Yeah, you got a Sugar Bowl trophy. So it's just they gave you extra games that those ones. Everybody's talking about the
Peach
conference
Bowl.
championship doesn't mean anything. The Peach Bowl. Everybody's talking about the conference championships don't mean anything. That's not really the case. That determines a bye, some positioning. But the thing that really doesn't feel like it means anything is that first playoff matchup. Like, yeah, it's a home game, but like, what did that buy Penn State? You got first round home game that you won going away.
Maybe a little bit of confidence. Maybe.
But it just didn't. I don't feel like it buying them anything.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the format's going to have to be told a little bit better. Obviously, some teams did get the short end of the stick despite winning some key games during the regular season. But can't lie, man. I'm definitely happy about the output.
They got to find a way to standardize the entry to the playoff, right? There can't be a different standard for each conference and all this other. Like, you've got to find a way to standardize this across the board for everyone. So there's not so much parity within the conferences between the conference champs and then the extras being added. Because it almost felt like the home playoff teams ended up being a little bit better than the first round bye teams. So you had Boise, Arizona State, Oregon, and Georgia. None of those guys advanced.
But I mean, in the case of Boise State and Arizona State, I think Texas is better than Arizona State. I think Penn State is better than Boise State.
Right.
At least in those instances.
You got to have the same qualifications for making your championship game so that there's not so much parity, man. It's just, that's the only way to do it, I feel like.
And I think there's going to be some things
for conferences. So you have so many teams. So you have to bring back divisions, man. It doesn't make sense without divisions. Otherwise, you're going to have nonsense like this, where there's a team who just didn't play the best teams in their conference that year, but went undefeated. So they're in the championship game. So regardless, win or lose, they end up in the playoff. That is the type of nonsense I feel like that made the field that we got this year. Have divisions, pods, whatever you want to call it. There needs to be a standardized format for all four of the Power Four conferences, so they're all playing football the same way.
Any other thoughts on the current format? Anything we're going to see in the national championship? Anything we saw in the playoffs?
Man, that's it. I will be watching through my fingers begrudgingly, but hold it down for the Midwest, I guess. Give us your thoughts in the comment section. Let us know who you got in the national championship game versus the Golden Domers and the Buckeyes. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and we'll have some more off-season videos up for you here in the coming weeks. So keep your notifications on so you let you know when we drop.
Oh, absolutely. You'll definitely want to have your notifications on because if the Buckeyes win, you will not want to miss that. And then also, I'm just throwing that out there. And then also, like you said, make sure you subscribe. Obviously, we talk about college football on this channel quite a bit. So make sure you stay tuned. Peace.